Hi there, it's Jennifer, and I'm here today to do another video in my series on long distance walking. Today's topic is weather. We often use weather as an excuse for why we don't get outside and walk, and yet there are things that you can do that can make walking in different kinds of weather more comfortable, more bearable, all of that, and safer. So here, let me just start out by saying, I'm not saying that you should go out when it's 115 degrees and walk in the hottest part of the day in the middle of the summer, or 90% humidity and really high temps and all of that. I really don't suggest going out in the middle of the day. If you live in a place that has a really hot climate in the summer, you should go early in the morning so that you're not out at the very hottest time of day, because it can be really dangerous. The same goes with a place that is really, really cold. Going later in the day when you live in a colder climate, when the temperatures are a little bit warmer. One time I tried to get up and walk at like 6 in the morning in January or something like that, and I live in a pretty cold climate. And I think it was 13, 14 degrees when I went out. And I was bundled pretty nicely, but the front of my thighs were freezing. And so I turned around and came home. So really it's kind of best to wait until, either do it early in the morning or wait until it warms up if it's in winter. But I just wanted to offer some suggestions for walking at different times of year so that weather doesn't become an excuse for not getting out there and moving your body. So let's first talk about heat. I mean, it is summer. So let's talk about that. I lived for many years in Phoenix, Arizona, in the desert, where it does get really, really hot. I did train for one of my full marathons in the summer. My race was in LA in October, so it meant that I was training during the hottest part of the year. My friend and I, when we were starting to get to some of our really long distances, would go out at 5 or 4:30 or whatever. We'd go as early as we could because it was even hot then at that time. So, but there are some things that you can do to make walking when it's hot a little bit more comfortable for you and safer for you. So first of all, you should wear light colored clothing. You should wear a light colored top, maybe even white. That will not absorb the heat, it will reflect it. If you're, even with your pants, or if you're wearing sweats or capris or something like that, just try to wear something that isn't black. A hat is also a really great idea, and the lighter the color of your hat, the better. So I have a little hat that's got kind of mesh, so it breathes a little bit. It does have a bill on it, and it's white, and that is a really good thing to do. So you just want to make sure that when you're out there, you're not just getting the sun pounding on top of your head. You can feel like your brain is on fire if your head gets so hot from being out there for hours and hours in the hot sun. So do that. You can also periodically soak down your head or your hat, and that will also help keep you cooler while you're out there. So bring some extra water, you can dump it on your head. Another thing is, I used to have one of these. I don't anymore. It's been a long time since I've lived in a really hot climate. It was kind of a cool pack thing that went around my neck, and it looks like a little, just like a little scarf kind of thing made of cotton, but it's got a pocket all the way through it, and then it has a little pack, like a gel pack that you freeze, and you put it in there and put it around your neck, and that kind of cools you down. The problem is, if you're out there for more than an hour, it's just gonna melt and it's not gonna keep you cool the whole time. So it just starts you out that way. If you had a way of having a couple of those and have one in your car, say if you're not walking near your house, and then you can keep one in your car in a cooler and come back by and switch them out, that would be helpful. Or stop by your house. And the danger about stopping by your house for anything, though, is that it's tempting to stop. So, all right, and then the other thing is to drink cold water. I mean, water of any kind is great, but cold water will really help to cool you down. And if you're out for long periods of time, sorry, my necklace is bugging me. If you're out for long periods of time, or you're away from your house, to bring a little jug of ice cold water and have it in your car so you can come back and refill the bottles that you have with you is really important. So those are some suggestions that you can use. Anyway, let's see. Okay, so let's go to the other extreme of cold. There are a couple of things that you can do to help with this. It's best to dress in layers. You don't want to just bundle up in this big heavy coat, because guaranteed you're going to warm up and you're going to start getting hot and you're going to start sweating. And so it's best to dress in layers. Plus, when you have layers on, it kind of helps to insulate yourself a little bit better. So in a Cool Max t-shirt, like a shirt that you would wear to keep yourself dry when it's hot, is also good in the winter. You start with, that's kind of a thin layer, but you put that on and then you can put another layer over that and something heavier over that if it's that cold. And then you can peel things off and start and just tie it around your waist and keep going. So as you start warming up. I usually find that after about a mile, I start unzipping things because I'm just really starting to get warm. Gloves are a good thing to bring. Hat, of course, because you lose a lot of the heat out of the top of your head. So keeping a hat on is a great idea. And wearing some socks that are going to be, keep your feet warm. And another thing to think about when you're walking in cold weather is staying hydrated. Of course, being hydrated all the time is a good idea, but it's and then we think about especially staying hydrated when it's hot, but it's really important to stay hydrated when you're cold too, because your body, it does a better job of warming itself when you are adequately hydrated. So don't think that, just because it's cold, you don't need to drink water, bring water with you. It helps to keep you warm. Okay, so then let's talk about ice. I have to deal with that a lot in the winter here. And so when I'm walking around different neighborhoods, there will be patches of ice, and it's, kind of risky to walk across. You can be as careful as you want to, and you still go falling on your butt. So there are a couple things to keep in mind. If you don't want to spend any money and you want to deal with ice, what I do when I'm walking along a sidewalk and there's like maybe a part of the sidewalk that kind of dips down and water has gathered there and then it freezes over, what I do is I'll be walking, and then when I get to that part, I just go so I do not pick my feet up. I just shuffle across it, and because if you try to pick your feet up, that can throw you off balance. But even better is this thing called a yak track, or it's yak tracks, YAKTRAX. I will put a link to this over on my website at BusyBeingJen.com. I'll put the post down below so you can click on that. But what yak tracks are is they're like tire chains for your feet. So if you look at this, but it has wire that is wrapped around these straps, and it takes a little doing to get them on your feet. So this part right here goes on your toe of your shoe, so you put that in there, and then you take this back part and you pull it over to the back of your shoe, and this part right here spreads out. So now, I don't know if you can see that, so now you have this crisscross of these straps that are wound with wire, and you can just walk across any ice, and this grips in and it keeps you from falling. So when we have some pretty seriously icy conditions, I'm always putting yak tracks on my feet. When my husband goes out to take care of the snow on our driveway, he always puts yak tracks on his boots. I have found that putting him on boots is a little bit more challenging because boots are clunkier, and so and plus I'm not going to go walking in boots because it's not as comfortable and it's kind of clumsy, and I would much rather just put on my regular tennies and then put these put this thing on there, and it keeps me standing up. All right, so two more kinds of weather: wind and rain. I don't have a single suggestion for either, to be quite honest. Rain is one of those things where, if it's sprinkling, I'll go out and walk. If it is just raining, I'm not going, because even if you bring an umbrella with you, well, then your natural gait is off. But even if you bring an umbrella with you, if the rain is coming down at an angle or whatever, you're going to end up being soaked. And so if it happens to be a time of year where there's some fairly consistent rain, I try to go out at a time of day when it won't be as rainy, or if there's a day where it isn't rainy, man, I'm getting out the door. I'm fortunate enough to live in a place where we don't get a whole lot of rain, and so I don't have to deal with that, but I don't like walking in rain. The other thing that I really hate walking in, and we have a lot of it here, is wind. If it's breezy, and it's breezy most of the time here, I'm absolutely fine with that. In fact, it's really kind of nice, especially, you know, on warmer days, it kind of cools you down. But we have some horrible spring wind, and I hate it. So I have a really hard time walking miles and miles in wind, and will opt for any other day except one that's terribly windy. So there are a couple things that I do to avoid wind. Where I live, it tends not to be windy when you first wake up in the morning, and then the wind kicks in mid-morning, and then it'll be horribly windy the rest of the day. I'm talking like 50-mile-an-hour winds. We get a lot of really strong winds, even higher than that sometimes. But so I will go out as early as I can to avoid the wind. And then other times, there's a forest area that's kind of in some area like behind my house and behind this other neighborhood near me. So it's not a complete remote area, but I will often walk off the sidewalk into the path in the trees and walk there when it's windy, just so that there's some break from the wind. So rain and wind, can't do a lot to help you with that. So if you have any tips for walking in wind or rain, I'd really love to hear them. So please comment in the space below. I'd love to hear about that. So anyway, I'm so glad that you guys tuned in today. Hope these videos have been helpful. If there are any topics that you'd like me to talk about in reference to walking in general or long distance walking, please feel free to mention those topics or ask your questions below. If you're not currently subscribed to my channel, just hit that little button right there. YouTube will let you know when I upload new videos, which is about 3 times a week. And I do a lot of different things, variety of topics on this channel. But anyway, I hope you're enjoying this series on long distance walking, and we'll see you again. Bye-bye.